Here are three shapes that once haunted Allied tank crews from Normandy to the Russian steppe: the StuG III, the Marder III, and the Panzer III. But this isn't 1944, this is Leicestershire, England, 70 years on, and the men who operate these vehicles have some interesting stories and insights to tell.
We're here at the Old Victory Show. Can you tell me a little bit about this German vehicle that we're standing in front of?
Well, what you see here is actually a modern replica of a StuG III, based on a 432 armoured personnel carrier chassis.
Okay, yep. So what were the original StuG IIIs? I mean, how does the replica vary?
It's very similar to size, few inches difference. The biggest thing a purist would know is it's actually got one road wheel less, but they are slightly bigger. But it's not an in-your-face problem. But the StuG III it's an assault gun, designed to get up close to fortified positions, to bunkers, basically a fortified piece of artillery, and take them out during the blitzkrieg. This one is the Ausf, which means Model G, where they put the Pak 40 75mm anti-tank gun in it. And this also, apart from being artillery, it made it a very, very effective tank killer.
Okay.
In fact, this model of vehicle took out 20,000 Allied tanks at least during the war.
So, for the uninitiated, what is the exact difference between a tank and an assault gun like this?
Well, the obvious one with it is there's no turret on the assault gun.
Right.
Obviously, the advantage of a turret is you can fight from all angles, where you've got to point this more or less at the enemy. The advantage with this is it is so much cheaper and so much quicker to produce. You can also, on a smaller vehicle, put a bigger gun on it, because the turret ring diameter will tell you how big a gun you can put on a tank. Whereas this, so you could not put this 75mm gun on the original chassis when this was a tank.
Right. Okay. So you said it's a replica. How old is it? I mean,
This is the second year it's been running.
Okay.
So it's really its first full season. Okay. Because last year we got it running, we had a few problems with it. We got to realise, we're not sure the age of it, but the 432, this could be a 50-year-old vehicle that we've actually built it on. You know, so I mean, the 432 are still in use, so it's a long-lived. The StuG were long-lived. They were fighting on the heights around Israel in the Six-Day War, and we believe there's still some of these actually dug in as permanent fortifications. So they've had a 70-year career. So although they was cheap and cheerful, they were very successful.
This is a replica of a Marder, which is a tank hunter. The Germans used the Czech chassis and mounted Pak 40 field guns on them. Right. Well, anti-tank guns, because they found that they were too heavy to manhandle. And they rushed these into service in Russia when they came up against the T-34s. And they did various patterns of them. The first pattern, they mounted Russian guns on that they'd captured. This was the second version that they made in Germany with their own guns. And then they made a later version where they moved all this to the rear, moved the engine forward, whereas this is the middle model. And actually they made more of these than any of the other variants.
So roughly how many did they make?
They made about 3,500 of these.
Okay.
Well, we don't really know, because what they were doing is bringing the knocked out tanks, which was a little 38T, they were bringing them back into Germany, taking the turrets off and the top and mounting them and making them up into Marders. So all the figures are from factory new, whereas they were actually remaking them from the knocked out tanks. The gun mounting that we've got in here came from such a factory It was brand new, dug out the ground. It had never been drilled, never been actually fitted in a Marder. And I had a choice of two.
Right. So what about the chassis? Where did that come from?
All the top part, all that, I made it.
Okay.
Yeah, I had it made.
And so the running gear and...
The running gear was with it. It wasn't working when I got it, but once we'd got our head around the gearbox, which is a Rolls-Royce design gearbox.
Okay.
It's a Czech design tank. It's got a Rolls-Royce design gearbox and drive system, and it's got a Swedish engine.
So how did the Swedes get involved? Being a neutral country.
Neutral, of course, yeah. I don't know how they got involved initially. Why were they making the engine for Czechoslovakia? I don't know.
Right.
But they were, and that's what it was. It was a petrol Scania engine. It's a petrol Scania engine, because if you speak to Scania, they go, no, we never make petrol engines. Oh yeah, they do. Oh, they did.
All right, so we'll see you out there in the battle later on today then?
Yeah.
Oh, well, we'll look forward to that.
Yeah, so will I.
Thanks very much, Alan. We're here at the Victory Show near Cosby, standing in front of a German tank. Can you tell me a little bit about this vehicle?
Well, this is a replica based on a British Army 432 armoured personnel carrier. Basically, they've cut the top of the body off and reconfigure a new Panzer III, Panzer Mark III body. Fully working sort of pyrotechnic gun, movable turret and everything else. Yeah, it's all fabricated and made to look like a proper Panzer III. Yeah.
So it's 1-to-1, full size?
Yeah, basically as close as you're going to get based on the wheelbase and the tracks of that particular vehicle. I think the original one was probably 300mm wider, but that's about it.
Okay. So compared to, if you could get a real Panzer, I mean, what was the cost of putting something like this together?
But probably building one of these, probably about 35,000, depending on what kind of spec that you wanted, because you can have all kinds of more working hatches and bits and bobs, so it could cost you as much as like 45,000, depending on what you want to spend, you know, what your budget is really.
But presumably that's a fraction of the cost of an authentic.
Yeah, quite easy. I'm not sure on the price of an original, but you could be looking at $500,000 to $1 million, I suppose. So. Yeah.
Interestingly enough, here at looking around the show at the weekend, it's definitely skewed towards German vehicles, and in this case replicas, and American. Very little English. Is that just simply an issue with the availability of the original machines? Or?
Yeah, I mean, the reason they build these things is that, you know, to take that out on the battlefield and blow it up and treat it how these get treated, you've got like a stable sort of power base here to use. You wouldn't be able to do that with an original one, because if it broke apart it would cost thousands to repair. So we sway towards sort of having replicas, so they look the part. You know, there's more and more coming on the scene now. So, you know, we're getting, at one point there was no German armour, only a few odd original type ones. But with these coming on the scene, it makes it more interesting, because there's plenty of American vehicles out there, but you know, not the German.
Yeah, somebody's got to play the bad guy.
Yeah.
So your group that's here this weekend, what do you represent?
Well, this is our group is KSK. It's Kampfgruppe Stahlkrieger, which is Battle Group Steel Warriors. Basically, we're Panzer Grenadier Unit of the 1st SS Panzer Division, and basically we're there to protect the tanks. It's an armoured division, so obviously we'll be protecting the Panzer III, and basically motorised infantry is what we're classed as. But like I say, it's the 1st SS Panzer Division, so it's...
And we'll see you out there in the thick of it this afternoon.
Oh yeah, we're definitely going to be in there in the middle of the battling, yeah.